Put your bread machine to work. Today I'm going to show you how to use the dough cycle to make one dough that'll make you a beautiful loaf of bread, dinner rolls, and hamburger and hot dog buns. Welcome y'all to Robyn on the Farm. Today I'm sharing with you a really easy bread machine recipe. This is actually a dough cycle recipe, and we're going to make the dough and use it to make a loaf of bread, dinner rolls, and some buns, hamburger and hot dog buns. So I'm going to show you those three things that you can make out of this dough. But you can use this dough to make cinnamon rolls, cinnamon bread, breadsticks, all kinds of things. So this is an important dough to know how to make, because if you know how to make this dough, then you will not be running to the grocery store to buy any bread, because this one will have you covered. I wanted to make a loaf of sandwich bread today, and the dinner rolls and the buns, because I feel like those are the basics. I feel like those are the things that I use most often that hopefully you do too. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. This is a really easy recipe. You're gonna throw all of your ingredients into the pan of your bread machine. I wanted to show you the inside of this bread machine. This is a Zojirashi bread machine that I love. I love using the dough cycle, and I love baking bread in it completely. But the thing that makes this bread machine special is that it has double paddles in there, so it kneads your bread really, really great. So that's why I like this bread machine. But get out whatever bread machine you have. If you've had one sitting in your pantry for years and years, like I hear from so many of y'all, get it out and make this recipe and try out making your own breads. This is a really fun recipe. I love making all these different things. So to get started, we want 1 cup of hot water. Just throw that right into your bread machine pan. You want that to be about 105 to 110 degrees. And then you want 3 tablespoons of melted butter. You can also use 3 tablespoons of oil if you want. Any kind of oil is fine, but 3 tablespoons of some kind of fat. Melted butter or oil works great. Next, we want our sugar. So I'm gonna use 2 tablespoons of sugar in this recipe. You can also use honey or maple syrup or anything like that, but you're gonna want a little bit of sweetener in here just to help your yeast activate a little bit. After our sugar, then we want some flour. I do use a lot of bread flour, but today I'm just gonna use all-purpose flour because it works great in these recipes. So you can use bread flour if you have that, or you can just pull out your all-purpose flour and it's gonna work great. So 3½ cups of all-purpose flour. Let's put that right in there over your wet ingredients. Next ingredient is salt. You want 1 teaspoon of salt. Let's go ahead and put that right into your ingredients. And our very last ingredient is yeast. You can use active dry yeast like this, or rapid rise, or instant, or bread machine yeast. It really doesn't matter for this recipe. It's totally versatile and fine. This is my active dry yeast. I always tell everybody, keep your yeast in the freezer. I keep mine in the freezer, and I just pull it out to make bread, and then I put it right back in there. You don't have to let it come to room temperature. You don't have to do anything special. Just keep it in the freezer and it will stay good forever. I always tell everybody, this yeast expired more than 2 years ago, but it's totally fine because I've kept it in my freezer, and I can do that for years and years. 2 teaspoons of yeast, any kind you want. So this is just a really easy recipe. There's only 6 ingredients and we're totally done now. So next step is to put this bread pan back into the bread machine. And since we're gonna use the dough cycle, I need to choose dough. Pretty much all bread machines that I've ever seen have a dough cycle. So look on your bread machine if you've never used it. Look where it says dough. You might have to go through different numbers and things like that, but it should have a dough cycle, and it should be about 1.5 hours long. What the dough cycle does is it'll mix up your ingredients, knead them for you, let it rise, and then at the end of 1.5 hours, your dough will be ready for you to take out and shape and let rise one more time and then throw in your oven. I love the dough cycle. It takes out some of the guesswork of kneading and knowing what texture you want in your dough. I think it's great. So if you've never tried it, get out your bread machine and try this dough cycle. It's fantastic. Okay, so 1.5 hours, I'm gonna press start. After just a couple minutes, I'm gonna look at my dough. I'm gonna peek in there and make sure that it's not too wet or too dry, make sure everything is going good with it, and then I'll just be able to let it do its thing. I won't have to mess with it anymore. So I will show you what it should look like in just a couple minutes. Just a couple minutes into the kneading cycle, and this is what your ball of dough should look like. It doesn't look too wet, too dry. It's kind of tacky, but it's perfect. So now that I know that there's no flour stuck to the sides and my dough isn't sticking too much, if yours is sticking, add a little bit more flour. If it looks a little dry, go ahead and add a tablespoon or two of water and try to get it nice and smooth like this. So now I'm just gonna close the door and let the dough cycle do its thing. It has been an hour and a half and the dough cycle is complete. Check that out. There is our risen dough. This is looking fantastic. Time to get it out and shape it. It's been an hour and a half and the dough cycle is complete. Now, look what I did. This was the dough that we started in my Zojireshi bread machine, but I also pulled out some of my other bread machines, because I do have like 5 of them, and went ahead and started 2 more batches of dough using the exact same recipe and everything for our other things that we're making. So for this one, I'm gonna make this one into just a simple loaf of bread. And with this one, I am going to make dinner rolls, yeast rolls. And with this one, I am going to make some buns, hamburger buns, hot dog buns, and I'm just gonna make them all right now at the same time. I also have over here some of my cast iron. I am such a lover of cast iron. I love it so much. So this is my cast iron bread pan. I'm gonna make my loaf of bread in this. And then this is my cast iron casserole dish. This is a 9 by 13. I am going to make my rolls in this. And this is my cookie sheet or baking sheet. This is a 10 by 15 and I'm gonna make my buns on this. So I just think cast iron is absolutely fantastic. I love baking on it. It bakes things so evenly and nicely and things don't burn because of the nice thick bottom. Fantastic. When I started making cookies on this cookie sheet, game changer, so much better. There was some recipes I was burning all the time and then I got this cookie sheet, fantastic. Okay, so first I'm gonna make the loaf of bread. So this is the dough for our master dough. It's like a multi-purpose. You can use this dough for anything. So we're making these 3 things, but you can make so much more with this dough. Okay, so to start with, I am going to just punch it down. So just go ahead and give your dough a good punch down. And I hate doing that because it looks so pretty when it's all risen like that, but it's totally fine. It's gonna work just great. Okay, so you get your dough out and then you wanna kind of press it out. Press your dough out, get all the little air bubbles in it. You just wanna totally deflate it and give it a good squish. Now I'm gonna shape this into a loaf of bread. So this is how I do it. I do the head down, shoulders in method. So I pull it down and then I pull in the shoulders or the sides and then I kind of squish it out with the palms of my hand. This will give you a really nice texture to your bread and a really nice tight crumb. So after I do that, then I just roll it up. I just roll nice and tight till you get all the way to the end and then you kind of pinch your seams together. So pinch your seams on the ends and on the bottom. And that'll just keep your loaf together really nicely. And just kind of roll it out a little bit. And you want to make this about the same size as your loaf pan. So that's looking pretty good. You can smack it around a little bit. This helps it relax. And then just grab your loaf pan, whatever you're using, and just throw it in there, just like that. Now I'm gonna let this rise on the counter, just like this, for about 30 to 45 minutes. Just when it's risen nicely over the edge of the loaf pan. Then it'll be ready to throw into the oven. So while this is rising, I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my oven to 350 degrees. This is fantastic sandwich bread, but if you wanna make something a little more special, you can always make this into a cinnamon bread. That's really yummy. I'll show you that another time. Okay, next we have our next batch, and this is the one I'm gonna make rolls out of. So we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna punch it down, it's gonna deflate, and then I'm gonna pull it out of my bread pan. This is the part where you wanna make sure that your paddles don't come out and get in your dough. Obviously you're gonna know if it's in there, but you don't wanna bake the paddles in your bread. That would be crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and press this out also. Now this will make 12 rolls. I use this bench scraper and I just divide my rolls up. This is a great dough cutting tool. I love this. So just divide your dough up however you want to do it. You can weigh your dough if you want. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it and try to get equal portions. Some are gonna be bigger than others, and it's totally fine. Sometimes you wanna grab a little roll, and sometimes you wanna grab a big roll, so I like that. So I'm just gonna divide this into 12 different portions, and then I'm just gonna grab a little piece, and I am just gonna shape it into a little roll. I like to kind of fold it down to the bottom and then pinch the bottoms together, but you can do it any way you want. You can just roll it into a nice ball, however you wanna do it. It's really fine. I like them to be kind of rounded on top, so I like to kind of fold it in and pinch it on the bottoms, and that'll just give you a really nice kind of rounded top. This is a really nice dough. It's really easy to work with. It's not too sticky or tacky. It's just really nice, and it works great for so many things. That's why I love this recipe. I love to use it to make all different kinds of breads. These rolls are fantastic to make little sandwiches on, or to have with a soup or salad, or just a nice snack. Okay, this dough is now divided up and shaped into 12 rolls. So I'm gonna do the same thing as the bread. I am just gonna let this rise on the counter for about 30 to 45 minutes. And then these will be ready to pop in the oven. These are also gonna be baked at 350 degrees. Now it's time for our buns, our hamburger and hot dog buns. I love these buns, these are really good. And when I started making all my own breads 20-something years ago, hamburger buns and hot dog buns were actually the very last things that I tackled. I was just really intimidated by them, but now I make them all the time and I love them, and I think they're even easier than making breads, and you'll see why. So go ahead and press out your dough, just like we did for the other two. This is all the same process. Now I'm gonna make 4 hamburger buns and 4 hot dog buns, just to kind of show you both. Let me add real quick, all of my cast iron, I oiled it up really well. I always pour a little bit of oil on there and brush it or rub it with a paper towel to get oil all over all of these things. Make sure you oil it up more than you think that you should, because it'll just help your bread just slide out of the baking pan. It'll help everything just not stick and just be really nice. And it also helps season it. So that's one of the things with cast iron. I'm gonna make the hamburger buns first. So what I do is I grab one of the pieces of dough and I just kind of make it into a ball. And then I just throw it onto my baking sheet. So just grab a little section, just make it into a ball. So now I have 4 balls of dough on my baking sheet. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just press them out. Make them into a little disc. Make them about the size of your hamburgers. Okay, these are all pressed out nicely. Now the great thing about hamburger and hot dog buns is they don't require any more rise time. So these are almost ready to go into the oven already. Let's go ahead and shape our hot dog buns. I just like to press them out and just roll them into kind of a cylinder. Usually you'll want them to be about 4 or 4.5 inches long when you do this part. So press it out and then roll them up nice and tight. Here are my hot dog buns, and I am just gonna press those out a little bit too. Now, these are not gonna be perfect. I always say around here, I am going for homemade and not perfection, and that is totally fine. These are gonna taste amazing. These are gonna be so much better than any hamburger or hot dog buns that you could ever buy at the store. These are gonna be fresh and fluffy and really good. Okay, just pat them out. Now, the next step, this is an optional step, but I think it's important, is to do an egg wash. So I have a cracked egg in here, and what it is it's a whole egg and about a teaspoon of water, and I am just gonna paint this on to my buns. This is gonna give us a really nice golden color on the outside, and I think that's important for hamburger buns, so that's what I'm gonna do, but you do not have to do this. You could brush on some melted butter or some milk. That'll give you about the same results, but I like doing the egg wash. I think it gives it a really pretty color. I'm gonna put this on the hot dog buns also. Now I like to do one more step for my buns, totally optional also, but I like to add something on top. You can do sesame seeds. I really like to use this everything bagel seasoning because it's kind of a mixture of everything. It's got sesame seeds and garlic and onions and poppy seeds, all kinds of stuff. So I'm gonna just sprinkle a little bit on these buns. I'm just gonna do it on the hamburger buns. I'm not gonna do it on the hot dog buns. And these are ready to go in the oven right now, exactly like this. You don't have to let them rise or anything like that. So I'm gonna pop these in the oven and I will show them to you after that. Here is our loaf of bread. It has only been rising for about 20 minutes, but look how well it's risen. It is well above the rim of the pan and it is ready to go in the oven. This is why it's important just to watch your loaves. I think it's because my home is pretty warm because I have the oven on, I've been cooking. So this one rose really, really fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the oven for 30 minutes at 350 degrees. Here are our rolls. They have been rising for about 30 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and pop these in the oven. They are gonna bake at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Now that our lovely loaf of bread has come out of the oven, I'm just gonna go ahead and rub a pat of butter all over it, just to give it some nice soft crust and to give it that beautiful shine. Wow, look at what we made. Don't these look fantastic? We made a beautiful loaf of bread, rolls, and buns, hamburger buns, and hot dog buns. These look fantastic. This was our multi-use, all-purpose white bread recipe that we made using the dough cycle of our bread machine. These things turned out amazing. Okay, so we made some really easy white bread that was like a multi-purpose, all-purpose master dough in our bread machine. We used the dough cycle to make all of these. Now, we made a beautiful loaf of bread. You see that? Isn't that so pretty? Beautiful loaf. Rose super high. We even used all-purpose flour and it still rose incredibly. We also made these beautiful dinner yeast rolls. Didn't those turn out pretty too? Oh, those look so good and they taste so good too. My family loves the rolls. And we also made these amazing hamburger buns and hot dog buns. Everything turned out great. Let me go ahead and turn out this loaf of bread. There we go. Let's take a look at it. Oh yes, turned out fantastic. It's nice and soft and fluffy. Oh, looks fantastic. Well, this was a lot of baking, but it was super fun. I really enjoyed making all of these breads today to show you that you can make so many things using your bread machine. You get out your bread machine, use the dough cycle and put it to work for you, and you can make breads and rolls and all kinds of stuff. So thank you for being here with me on Robyn on the Farm. I will leave the recipe for this multi-purpose, all-purpose dough down in the description so you can make this. So get out your bread machine, make some of these. Don't buy bread from the store anymore. Definitely make your own. I appreciate you being here with me on Robyn on the Farm. I'll see you next time. Please share this video with your friends and family and like and subscribe. I would appreciate it.
Robyn's in the kitchen, dough beneath her hands, wheat from the fields and eggs from her land. Sunlight through the window, a warm golden glow. She's working hard to make that dough.